First up, the NBN, our nation's biggest infrastructure project, has had its first big report card, and it all came up roses for Malcolm Turnbull. It also contained a whole bunch of three-letter acronyms. Let's start with the acronym we already know, the NBN, or the National Broadband Network. The hotly debated political football that one way or the other will form the internet future of our country. Today, Communications Minister Malcolm Turnbull has a new independent CBA. That's cost-benefit analysis that says the Coalition's slower but much cheaper version of the NBN will be economically better for all of us.
When you do the cost-benefit analysis, which takes into account all of the social benefits to the whole society, the approach we're taking is $16 billion better.
The chief differences between the Rudd-Gillard NBN and Turnbull's NBN is this stuff: optical fibre. It allows for blistering internet speeds. Under Labor's original plan, fibre would be plugged straight into most homes. Under the Coalition's plan, for most Aussies, the fibre will only go to a central node somewhere in their neighbourhood. From there, the internet will travel down the same old copper wires we already have. The Coalition calls this approach an MTM. That's multi-technology mix. The report says this version of the NBN can be delivered much faster and bring benefits to the community sooner.
The tragedy, of course, is that this work was not done before Labor embarked on the NBN project back in 2009.
But the independence of Mr Turnbull's report has been called into question.
Well, surprise, surprise, Malcolm Turnbull's got some of his former staff and some of his former advisors to write a report for him, and the report says he's right.
So the war of words about the NBN continues. The big questions today: can we trust the findings of this report, and will it lead to the best NBN for all Australians?
For an independent take on this latest NBN report, we're talking to Colin Jacobs from Electronic Frontiers Australia. I'm sorry, EFA. Colin, first up, what's your take on the report?
Well, there's a saying in politics: never commission a report unless you know what it's going to say. So on the one hand, there's not a lot of surprise in the fact that it's endorsed the government's policy. I think the pollies all start arguing over whether the report is fair or unbiased or not. But what we need to look at as a community is some of the assumptions under this. This is a cost-benefit analysis, and it's pretty easy to figure out what the costs of the NBN are, but when it comes to measuring the benefits of every Australian having better internet access, that's where the discussion begins.
Well, let's start with the cost. $16 billion back in our pockets. That's not a good thing, you're saying, necessarily?
Well, more money is always good, and it's important to spend taxpayers' money efficiently, so there's no problem in looking at big infrastructure projects. But it's hard to argue that internet infrastructure and the NBN isn't going to be important this century. I don't think that's the first place you would look to start cutting back on investment.
Colin, a lot of tech journos who know a lot more about this stuff than I do are saying this report is short-sighted. Are they right?
Well, if you went back 15 or 20 years and asked people what are they willing to pay for internet and what is it going to do to their lives, they probably wouldn't have put a huge price on it. They probably wouldn't have said it's going to remake the way they work or the way they live.
Well, to be honest, 20 years ago, faster internet would have made Leisure Suit Larry a lot more enjoyable, to be honest. Oh, that was
yeah,
PC,
sometimes I still miss the sound of the modem dialing in, but not very much.
Well, you are in a rare category there.
Hey, Colin, talk to us about some of those things that we're not thinking about, that in 20 years' time will be part of our daily life and we'll be thankful for the fast internet.
The way I look at it is, what are the things that are going to be in the future that we can't imagine? And some of those things will only be built if everybody has access to super fast internet. I actually have fast fibre to my house, so I'm reaping the benefits of the NBN right now, and you'd be surprised how quickly you can actually fill up a pipe, even though it's 10 times faster or more. But the question really isn't, what would people do with 100 times the speed today? The services aren't there that use that. But if you look 10 years in the future, 20 years and even 30 years, which is the horizon we have to build the NBN for, then of course people will need faster speeds. It's just a given.
We'll let you get back to your personal high-speed internet. Thanks for joining us, Colin.
No worries, guys.
Who does he know? Who does he know to get super fibre NBN? I mean, WTF?
I mean, there's lots of debate around the NBN. There has been lots of debate for a long time. One thing that's not debated was we absolutely need it. Comparatively, on an international scale, we're still on dial-up. This will help our economy, and for most of us, we'll do things we never thought possible on the internet.
So is it like, when you watch movies and they're just like, blah, 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 and the answers are there? Is it like that? Is that what we want? Is that what we need?
It should be instant. Yes.
Instant lap?
Yes.
I like it. Anyway.
Let's get that again.
That's how top. Fingers were on the home keys, kids.